It's fascinating, isn't it? How much more we seem to care about, well, what exactly is in our food, our medicine?
Absolutely. It's not the casual interest anymore, is it? Knowing the specifics, especially protein content, is becoming pretty crucial.
Which brings us neatly to today's deep dive. The global market for protein analyzers.
Exactly. We're digging into a recent report, the Global Protein Analyzer Market Report 2025. It gives a really solid view of, the current smate and the future trajectory.
Our mission then is to unpack that, understand the size, the growth, the tech, the industries involved.
Precisely. Pull out the key insights.
Okay, so let's start with the here and now, 2025. What kind of scale are we actually talking about for this market?
The report estimates it at USD 346 million globally for 2025.
Nearly $4 billion. Okay. But you mentioned trajectory. Growth is often the more revealing part.
That's where it gets quite interesting, yeah. The projection is for a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 8.90%
8.9%.
between 2025 and 2033. So by 2033, we could be looking at a market size of around USD 705.13 million.
Wow, nearly double. That's some serious expansion.
It really points to some significant underlying drivers, doesn't it?
It does. Now, for anyone listening, you might hear protein analyzers and think, okay, lab equipment, kind of niche. Why should this matter day to day?
Well, it sounds specialized, sure, but think about it. It impacts things you rely on constantly, like
Oh,
the trust you have in that nutrition label on your food. Is the protein content accurate? Or the confidence that the medicine you take is safe and effective that involves rigorous testing, often including protein analysis?
right. So it's foundational for food quality, pharma safety, connected to health trends too, I suppose.
Definitely. Health awareness, quality control.
Yeah.
It underpins a lot.
Okay, so it's clearly important. Let's look at the map then. Where's the hub of this market right now in 2025?
Geographically, North America is the leader. It holds over 40% of the market share.
Over 40%. What does that translate to in dollars?
That's about USD 1460.02 million for 2025. Europe is the second largest, holding over 30%, which comes out to USD 144.34 million.
So North America and Europe together are, what, roughly three-quarters of the market?
Pretty much, yeah. Dominant forces currently.
But are they where the fastest growth is expected? You mentioned that big overall growth rate.
Interestingly, no. While they're the biggest pieces of the pie now, their growth rates are projected to be a bit more moderate.
Moderate-like.
North America is looking at a 7.4% CAGR and Europe around 7.9%. Solid, but not the highest.
Okay, so if the big players aren't the fastest growers, where is the real acceleration happening?
That would be the Asia-Pacific region. Definitely.
Ah, okay. What's their current share?
Right now, it's around 23% of the global market. That's about USD 947.04 million in 2025.
Still significant. And their growth rate?
This is the key part. It's projected at a striking 11.7% CGR.
11.7%. That's considerably faster than North America or Europe.
Absolutely. That rapid expansion in APAC is, I think, one of the major takeaways from this report. It really signals a potential shift in the market's center of gravity over time.
Yeah, you'd expect that to drive more local activity, maybe manufacturing, innovation.
Precisely. Investment in infrastructure, growing local industries, it all feeds into that.
What's specifically fueling that kind of boom in APAC?
Well, it's a combination of factors. Economic growth in key countries, China, India, leading to bigger investments in healthcare, R&D infrastructure. Plus, their own domestic food and pharma industries are expanding rapidly.
Makes sense. What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa? Are they players here?
They are, absolutely. Their current market shares are smaller, naturally. South America's got just over 5%, Middle East around 2%, Africa about 1% in 2025.
But are they growing?
Yes, and quite strongly. South America's projected CAGR is 9.6%. The Middle East is actually showing very strong potential at 10.2%.
Wow, over 10% in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's notable, and Africa is projected at 9.2%. So good growth potential across the board, even if starting from smaller bases.
Okay, so APAC leads the growth charge, but it's a global expansion story overall. Can we zoom in a bit? Any specific countries that stand out in these regions?
Sure. Let's look at North America first. The USA, as you'd expect, is the giant there, about USD 1,151.96 million in 2025, growing at 7.2%.
Okay.
Canada's market is around USD 175.21 million, but with a slightly higher growth rate, 8.2%. And Mexico is at USD 132.86 million, growing at 7.9%.
Got it. And across the pond in Europe.
Germany actually has the largest market size currently, around USD 226.58 million, growing at 8.1%. The report notes their strong food and feed sector as a driver.
And the UK.
The UK is interesting, slightly smaller market at USD 192.25 million, but it has the highest projected growth in Europe at 8.7%. The report links that particularly to demand from the pharmaceutical industry there.
Pharma driving UK growth.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's jump to that high-growth APAC region.
Right, China is a huge player, of course. Yep. Market size of USD 397.76 million, growing at a strong 11.2%. Fertilizer industry is mentioned as a specific factor there.
Interesting. What about India?
India shows the fastest growth globally. Their market in 2025 is estimated at USD 94.70 million, but with a projected CAGR of a whopping 13.6%.
13.6%. That is rapid. Any others in APAC?
The report also mentions Southeast Asia as a collective region showing strong prospects with a 12.5% CAGR.
Okay. And quickly, South America, Middle East, Africa, any standouts?
Brazil leads in South America, USD 64.18 million, growing at 10.2%, helped by its food and beverage sector.
Okay.
In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is key, with USD 55.56 million and a 10.5% CAGR.
Also a very strong growth.
And in Africa, South Africa has the largest share at USD 30.56 million, with a 10.1% CAGR.
Okay, thanks. That country detail really paints a clearer picture. So zooming back out, what are the big picture forces pushing this whole market forward?
The report really focuses on three main drivers. First, and maybe most obvious, is the growing global demand for protein-rich foods.
The health and wellness trend.
Exactly. Driven by health consciousness. There's a striking statistic mentioned. Global protein intake is up something like 40% since the year 2000.
40%. Wow.
And apparently Asia has contributed over half of that increase.
Okay, so more demand for protein means more need to measure it accurately. What's driver number two?
That ties into your point. The increasing focus on food safety and quality control.
Regulations, labeling.
Precisely. Accurate protein measurement is non-negotiable for nutritional labeling, for meeting regulatory standards, and just for basic consumer trust.
Makes perfect sense. And the third driver?
Technology itself. Just continuous improvements in the analyzers are getting more accurate, faster, more automated.
Any specific examples of that tech push?
Yeah, the report mentions Agilent Technologies launching their Proteo analyzer system back in January 2024. It's designed specifically to make analyzing complex protein mixtures easier and more efficient, targeting pharma, biotech, food, and academic labs.
So better tools making the job easier and more reliable. Okay, now how does the report break this market down further, like different types of analyzers or techniques?
It does. It segments the market by product type, by the analytical technique used, and by the end-user industry.
Let's start with product types. What are the main categories?
Well, there's a general category of protein analyzers, then it gets more specific. Automatic analyzers, semi-automatic analyzers, there are also kits and regions, and an others category.
Okay. Within that general protein analyzers category, what kind of tech are we usually talking about?
That often covers established, accurate methods like near-infrared or NIR spectroscopy, and also the Dumas combustion method. These tend to be faster than, say, the very traditional CAGR method.
Right. And among these product types, what's the big trend? Where's the growth?
So while the general protein analyzers category likely holds the biggest share because of, proven accuracy, the fastest growing segment is automatic analyzers.
Automation. No surprise there, I guess.
Yeah.
Why the demand?
Efficiency, mainly. These automatic systems can test multiple things about a protein sample at once, like its molecular weight, concentration, purity, even amino acid composition.
Using different methods.
Yes. They can integrate techniques like chromatography, KLOL, NIR, Dumas, all within one automated workflow. It means more consistent results, higher throughput, and critically, less hands-on lab time.
Less manual effort, fewer errors.
Oh, got it. Now, what about the specific techniques themselves? You mentioned Dumas chromatography. Which ones are most dominant or growing fastest?
Right now, the DUMAS method actually holds the largest market share.
Can you briefly explain Dumas?
Sure. It's essentially a combustion method. You burn the sample at a very high temperature with oxygen, and then the system isolates and measures the nitrogen gas released. Since protein has a known average nitrogen content, measuring nitrogen tells you the protein level.
And its advantages.
It's fast, it's accurate, and it lends itself really well to automation. Those are big pluses.
Okay, so Dumas is the current leader. What else is making waves? Chromatography is expanding rapidly. There are constant improvements happening there. better materials for the separation process, more sensitive detection methods.
Making it more powerful.
Exactly. And like the Dumas method, it's increasingly being integrated into automated systems, which boosts its appeal for labs needing high throughput.
Interesting. So Dumas leads, chromatography is charging hard. Now, who's actually buying all these analyzers? Which industries are the main end users?
The biggest slice of the pie belongs to the food and feed industry.
That figures, given the protein trend and labeling rules we talked about.
Absolutely. Consumer demand for high-protein foods, the need to verify those claims on packages, and adhering to strict labeling regulations all drive demand in this sector.
Okay. And which sector is the fastest growing end user?
That would be the pharmaceutical sector.
Why the rapid growth there?
Several things. The rise of personalized medicine, huge amounts of R&D going into proteomics, the study of proteins on a large scale, and the whole boom in biologics and biosimilars. All of these require incredibly precise protein analysis for quality assurance and efficacy.
Right. The standards in pharma are exceptionally high, so food and pharma are the big ones. Who are the companies actually making these analyzers? It sounds like a competitive space.
It is described as competitive, yes.
Wow.
The key players are really focusing on tech advancements and innovating with new products.
Can you name some of the major players mentioned?
Sure. The list includes names like PerkinElmer, Thermo Fisher Scientific, GE Healthcare, Leco Corporation, Shimadzu, Agilent Technologies, who we mentioned earlier, VAELP Scientifica, Biorad Laboratories, New England Biolabs. Quite a few established names.
That's a solid list of major scientific equipment companies. Is it just these giants, or are there smaller niche players too?
It seems like a mix. You have these large, diversified companies driving a lot of the core innovation, but there's likely room for smaller firms focusing on perhaps very specific applications or regional markets.
Okay, one name on that list you read caught my ear. NVIDIA Corporation.
It's
Not who I'd typically associate with lab analyzers.
right. It is an interesting inclusion. The report doesn't spell out their exact role, but it certainly makes you think.
About what? AI. Big data.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe their high-performance computing capabilities are becoming relevant as protein analysis generates more complex data, maybe for AI-driven interpretation of results or faster processing of large data sets.
Could be for modeling protein structures and analyzing interactions. Definitely a space where serious computation could help. Fascinating pointer for the future, perhaps.
It does suggest a potential convergence of analytical chemistry and advanced computing.
Any recent examples of market activity? Acquisitions, new product pushes?
The report gives a couple. In May 2023, a company called Redshift Bioanalytics acquired the Tridex protein analyzer. Their plan was to relaunch it as the Halcon analyzer, aiming for something faster, easier to use, and more cost-effective.
So innovation through acquisition, aiming for user-friendliness.
Seems like it. And another example from November 2023. Valio, which is a big dairy company, launched a new milk protein concentrate product.
How does that relate?
Well, it highlights the end product innovation. Companies developing new high-protein ingredients for foods absolutely rely on accurate analyzers during R&D and for quality control. It shows the demand side.
Got it. Good examples.
Yeah.
Now, are there any brakes on this growth? Any challenges or restraining factors mentioned?
Yes, a couple of key ones. The first is cost.
The analyzers themselves.
Exactly. The initial purchase price for these sophisticated instruments plus the ongoing maintenance costs can be quite high. That can be a significant hurdle, especially for, say, smaller companies or academic labs with tighter budgets.
Understandable. Advanced tech often comes with a hefty price tag. What's the other factor?
The other side of the coin regarding regulations. While strict rules, especially in food and pharma, drive the need for accurate analysis.
They also create challenges.
Precisely. Meeting those stringent requirements can be complex and costly. It might demand very specific, validated methods, expensive consumables, rigorous documentation. So the regulations are both a driver and, in some ways, a restraint due to the compliance burden.
A double-edged sword, then. Okay, well, this has been incredibly thorough, a really clear picture of the protein analyzer market. Let's try to quickly sum up the main takeaways.
Sure. So it's a large market, nearly $4 billion now, and set to grow fast, almost 9% CAGR, heading towards $8 billion by 2033.
Driven by?
Health trends pushing protein demand, the absolute need for food safety and quality control, and ongoing technological progress making analyzers better and faster.
Geographically?
North America and Europe are biggest now, but Asia-Pacific is where the really rapid growth is happening, especially India and China.
In terms of tech and users?
Automation is a key trend in products. The Dumas method is currently dominant, but chromatography is growing fast. Food and feed is the biggest end user, while pharma is the fastest growing one.
Excellent summary. A dynamic market, clearly crucial for several major industries.
Mm.
So maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with.
Okay.
We're seeing this global focus on things like personalized nutrition, and biotech is advancing incredibly quickly. Thinking beyond just the food labels or current drug development,
Mm.
how else might these protein analysis technologies evolve? How could they, impact our daily lives in ways we haven't even considered yet?
That's a great question. It really speaks to the potential here. Continued innovation seems certain, and its importance for quality, safety, and scientific advancement across so many fields is just undeniable.